why would I be anything else when I can be me? No, but seriously, like, I could just do me, Like, I could just live my life as me. Just whole, complete, just myself.
All right, and welcome to this week's episode of Unabridged. As always, I am your host, Doc Miller, and I am so excited to be here with you. This week's episode is just jam-packed of not only just amazing people, but a lot of information, some tea, just like all the good things. And I'm just like super excited to share this with you, share the conversations that we were able to have this week or over the last couple of weeks. As you know, we're a monthly girly now. But yeah, we're just going to jump right into it with our Let's Get Into It this week. It's very special this week because we are joined by none other than the majority whip for the Philadelphia City Council, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas. Member Thomas came on the show this week to talk about the budget. As you know, in the past, we talked about the budget process here in the city of Philadelphia, where the mayor will present her plan to the girlies at the beginning of the year or kind of mid-year, maybe around April-ish. We duke it out, or council members of her duke it out for a couple of months, and then they vote on a budget after kind of coming to a consensus. As you have probably seen all over the news, that this year was a little bit more contentious than others and just a little bit all over the place because we've seen deficits not only in major parts of our city, but within our city's school district, which has also caused them to announce the closure of 17 public schools. That decision is not made final. However, nothing has yet changed from the district side. So Councilmember Thomas and I talk a little bit about that relationship between the city and council and how it all works out. So let's just get right into it. I don't want to make you wait to listen to my people. So let's just start and let's get right into it. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into
Let's
it.
get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay, and welcome to this special episode or segment of Let's Get Into It. I'm super excited this week because we are joined by a very special guest, Council Member Isaiah Thomas, Majority Whip for the City of Philadelphia City Council, my boss, one of my best friends, my big brother. Isaiah, welcome to the show again.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to talk to Philadelphia. I think it's always great to be on a platform that allows me to go in depth and in detail as it relates to things people are talking about, especially on social media. So, absolutely.
Great. So let's get right into it. So we're here to talk about the budget, right? We're here to talk about the fiscal, 26, 27 budget for the city of Philadelphia. Can you tell the people, as of today, when this episode comes out, where we are in the process?
Sure. So, as of today, we've already passed the budget out of the committee of the whole, which is basically the committee hearing that you have to determine what the budget will consist of. The budget also had its first reading in city council as it relates to last Thursday council session, and it should have its final reading and passage this Thursday. Once we have our council session, we will be voting on a budget and we will be passing a budget that I'm actually proud of. I mean, there are some things that I would like to have seen different, but politics is a compromise. You're not always going to get everything you want. But I think with this budget, we did the right thing for the people of Philadelphia.
So what can people expect from this budget? Any highlights that, stuck out to you? Let's start with the ones that you actually like.
I mean, I think the biggest thing people can expect from this budget is no significant new taxes or tax increase. When you think about the affordability crisis in the city of Philadelphia, I know a lot of folks say that Uber and these other delivery services, they're a privilege. I don't think I know for a fact I don't agree with that, and I don't think most Philadelphians agree with that. I'll give you a couple of examples. I remember a friend of mine, him and his partner, they're both teachers, and teachers ironically have to be to school at the same time as their school-age children. And if your children, like most Philadelphians, don't live I mean, I'm sorry, if your children, like most Philadelphians, don't go to school close to where they live, and we also often don't work close to where we live, that creates a unique commute, especially if the students aren't in high school. So I know folks who would use, one or two Ubers a day and still do. When you think about that cost right now, a dollar a day is a lot, even if it's just one Uber a day. That's 365 days in a year. And That's a bill that people really can't afford right now. The cost of living is extremely high. We have a lot of uncertainty coming out of DC that impacts things like gas prices, rental costs, groceries, and local government. We might not be able to do much about those things, but we should do something about the things that we can control. And what we can control is certain things that impact the cost of living here in the city of Philadelphia. So I think the biggest highlight this year is that we were able to pass a budget with no new taxes. I think that is important in today's economy. And in the midst of doing that, we were also able to find the revenue that the school district needed to put itself in a position to not have to lay off any staff or move any staff or anything like that. And that was the overall goal. It's disappointing to see that the school district is still even entertaining moving anybody. The idea of recurring revenue is something that city council has advocated for some time. So if you don't know, their argument is that because it's a one-time infusion and not recurring revenue, they still might have to move the positions. And that's just frustrating because we've been advocating for recurring revenue for years now. And this threat never existed. But now all of a sudden this threat exists at a time when the school district has, I don't know, a $400 million fund balance, $200 million projected fund balance in the next year. And, doing so while also looking to close 17 schools. So it's tough to tell Philadelphians that they have to pay more to get less. I think that that's a tough sell in general. But that's what I think we were asking Philadelphians to do. And I'm glad that that's not the case. Outside of that, you did see significant investment in departments and areas that hopefully continue this trend of public safety. We've done a good job of reducing crime and violence in the city of Philadelphia, and I think this budget will continue to move down that trajectory. And there was also a renewed commitment to the African American Museum, which is something that really means a lot to me, and we want to continue to invest in that relocation as well. So as a board member, I'm really proud of that. There are a lot of organizations, as you know, that I would like to have seen get funded at a higher level or get funding in general. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to do that this year. But, time will tell. We have our quarterly reports that are coming in. And, right now we're projected to bring in more revenue than what we anticipated, which often happens. So hopefully there's some wiggle room to be able to make some adjustments in the future so we can continue to invest in the organizations that make Philadelphia the great city that we are.
So I'm happy you mentioned the school district conversation. So for those who are listening, right, I think that a lot of people don't understand what the city itself's relationship is, especially financially with the school district. Can you
Sure.
talk a little bit about kind of like what that relationship looks like for people who just don't get it, right? Because again, it's so conflated. People just say the city when they talk about the school district, not realizing that those are two separate entities and kind of the layered impacts that has. So can you just talk a little bit about that and why this was so prevalent this budget cycle?
Yeah, so the school district is governed by the school board. The school board is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council. These are basically non-volunteers who are in charge of a budget that's about $4 billion. Of that $4 billion, about 2.1-ish billion comes from the city of Philadelphia, and that's earmarked through certain taxes as well as a grant that the city gives the school district every year to essentially offset the revenue that the district needs that don't come from taxes that are earmarked for the district, such as use of occupancy, real estate tax, liquor by the drink tax, and things of that capacity. So as a municipality, we invest a lot of money in the school district of Philadelphia. The U.S. Constitution say education is the responsibility of the state. It's no secret that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have not been paying their fair share to the point where as though we sued and actually won a lawsuit, and that has changed the funding formula. And so over the next couple of years, we anticipate the Commonwealth putting in more money as it relates to the school district to be able to address the deficit that we're currently in, and that gets worse over the next couple of years. So as a city, we've stepped up every single time to do our part to make sure that the school district has the revenue that it needs to continue to function through the vision and mission that the leadership over there has created. I think the frustrating thing for us is that while we continue to put the revenue on the table, we're not included in the capacity that we want to as it relates to important decisions like facilities. For those of us who are born and raised in Philadelphia, we've seen this story before. We watched this chapter, and we know that it can be a little frustrating as it relates to the relationship you have as a community to your local schools. So when you talk about closing 20 schools, that number reduced down to 17, that's still too many. What message are we sending Philadelphians when we're asking them to pay more, but we're looking at closing schools like Lincoln Hall and Paul Robeson? So if we had the opportunity to do so, we would change that decision based on where we are right now. We're on different sides of the aisle as it relates to what should be done to the future of our capital issues with schools and school buildings. We love the investments. We love the idea that no comprehensive neighbor, no, none of our major comprehensive neighborhood high schools were closing. There's only one, and that's unfortunate. But this plan saves Overbrook, it saves Martin Luther King, it saves Strawberry Mansion, it saves Roxborough. Those things matter, and we're proud of it. But at the same time, we can't save those schools by sacrificing other schools that work. So it's an uncomfortable position to be in. We, City Council, never left the negotiating table. We always wanted to negotiate. It's unfortunate that the school board left the negotiating table. And we remain hopeful and optimistic that we can work together to come up with a compromise that we feel like is best for Philadelphia. Because right now, 20 schools closing, 17 schools closing, including Lincoln Hall, Paul Robeson. That's extremely problematic, and we want to put ourselves in a position to be able to try to come up with a better plan because we don't think that this is the best possible plan for Philadelphians, and we don't think Philadelphians should settle for anything but the best.
I'm happy you said the best possible plan, right? And I think that has been something that's been going on a lot during this budget cycle where people have been talking about this idea of alternative plans, especially as it relates to finding alternative revenue outside of taxing constituents. Now, we talked about this idea of tightening city council belts or tightening city belts across the board, how much money we're spending internally. Can you talk more about what these alternative plans were and how they actually fit into the process? Because I think, when you hear that on the outside, a lot of people think government is kind of negotiating behind the back channels, right? And don't really understand, how that process of presenting alternative plans to different levels of government can really affect our budget or not affect our budget, as well as affect the dialogue that we see happening around it. So, yeah, I would love to know more about those plans that may have come up during this process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can only speak for myself. Legislators are independent thinkers, and I really commend Mayor Parker for what she did on the campaign trail, where she talked about increasing the millage rate. For those who don't know, when you pay real estate taxes, there's a certain percentage that goes to the city, to the general fund, and then there's another percentage that goes to the school district of Philadelphia. Mayor Parker pledged to move that number during the campaign trail, and thus far, that pledge has been met. What we've been advocating for was for the plan to be expedited. We recognize that this deficit was on the horizon, and what we've asked for a couple years now was for the millage rate to increase now. And that's not wait a couple years. And that shift in revenue can put us in a position where we're earmarking more dollars to the school district of Philadelphia, which in turn could address a significant portion, not a big portion, but an impactful portion of the deficit that's on the horizon. And it could be done so without increasing taxes for businesses and or for people. So that was one of the recommendations that we made. We also recommend other things that we can do as a city to tighten the belt a little bit. We talked about reconciling Class 100. We talked about looking at some of the leasing issues that we have as it relates to that increase of $20 million over the next couple of years. We thought that was a way to identify ways to save revenue. And other members came up with suggestions that, I'm not going to communicate on their behalf or anything like that, but there were a number of other different ideas on the plate that people were looking at to try to find recurring revenue for the district without increasing taxes for people or for businesses. And so that was a dialogue that started maybe in April, and we communicated our information. Other members communicated information as well too. And then there were other recommendations that were communicated as it relates to the private sector, folks in the private sector who were impacted by these taxes as it relates to their business. And, I don't know how that did or did not go, but I know that as it relates to the communication to me, I thought that some of those ideas were actually worth exploring. It's unfortunate that we didn't. This is where we are right now. And overall, again, it could be better. I definitely don't think this is the best job we could have done, but it's always a good situation when we can pass a budget that funds schools the way it needed to be funded as it relates to the school year and didn't increase taxes for people or for businesses. So I'm going to keep, beating that horn because I think it's really important. And I think people need to recognize that we didn't get duped or fooled or, that's not what happened, right? Like we very rarely, the noise is the noise, but the voices that matter are the people who we represent. And I think overwhelmingly people told us time and time again through emails at budget town halls, even when you're just casually just trying to live your life as a regular constituent, there was consistent communication to not just myself, but the entire legislative branch that this is not something Philadelphians wanted to see. So I don't see it as the way it's been portrayed. I actually see it as Philadelphians getting a win, and City Council responded to the voices of the people and people saying, I can't afford another bill right now. I just can't. We're the city of the working poor, right? We're the second poorest big city in the entire country. And, it's not like we did anything to become not the poorest, probably mistakes other cities made. But when you look at where we are right now, it's really tough to recognize that we have people who work two jobs just to be poor.
Mm-hmm.
And often when you work two jobs just to be poor, your time is consumed by so much. If you have children and families, these delivery services, they're not a privilege. They actually become a part of your norm, a part of your culture. Um, Elected officials, a lot of elected officials, I'm not stereotyping or anything, but and I'll put myself in this category. I don't really use a lot of these apps that
Mm-hmm.
would have been taxed. So I don't see it as something that would have hurt me directly. I don't really call Ubers. I don't
Well,
really.
I'll push back on that, council member, because think about the young men you call Ubers too because they are at St. Kofa and they need to get home or they
Sure.
need
So
to,
so so they're the
so.
ones who I think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know when they're having issues with SEPTA and things of that capacity, I may buy it every once in a while. That dollar doesn't hurt me. It's their families I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That dollar on a consistent basis becomes a new bill. That can be another, $400 a year a family is paying at a time when they're working two jobs just to be poor. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to be considered. I think we did a good job of listening to people and responding to what was communicated to us. And again, I see this as Philadelphians getting what they asked for, which is for schools to be funded and for there to be no new taxes.
And I think one of the last questions I want to ask you because you talked about this idea of affordability, and to be honest, this is again my own opinion. This is my podcast. Even though we have our working relationship, I feel like people are getting signals from the city that are not welcoming, right? It's not like we're getting, schools are closing, increased taxes, they're shutting down our public transportation or it's poorly funded. So many of the systems that people rely on are not really signaling to either folks that are born and raised here, people who have moved here, people who may want to move here, that Philadelphia is really a place that is somewhere they might want to be. So, as a representative of Philadelphia, of the entire city, what would you say to those people, right? Like as a way to kind of inspire them to say, that Philadelphia is not, I hate to say a lost cause, but there are other sides of our city and that there are people who are working. And as somebody who is doing that work every day, what do you tell those people? Because I imagine you have to tell that to yourself to keep pushing, to the people around you who are working so hard on the mission that you have. So I'm just interested, like, what is that? So we can kind of like leave on an inspired note for folks listening.
I don't know if I'm gonna inspire, but what I'll say is it's major cities across the country are a lot of them are facing the same issues, and it really starts with DC. When people say the president doesn't matter and my life is going to be the same no matter what, you know, the president right now is currently proving that to be not true for the second term in a row. And I don't know why COVID wasn't enough of a lesson for folks. Maybe folks didn't think that the decisions coming out of DC had anything to do with the impact that had on our country. That absolutely 100% did. Maybe folks forgot. I'm not sure. But here we go again in 2026. And a lot of the problems that we're facing, we were talking about schools, right? While we might not agree locally on how to fund the deficit wasn't created by us locally. And so when you look at the decisions that are coming out of DC, the thing is that this affordability crisis is impacting everybody across the country. We have our minimum wage issues in Pennsylvania, right? But we do a good job of providing, opportunity to organize. Other states they might do a little bit better with minimum wage, but they might not have that union representation. So there are positives and there are negatives to Philadelphia. But the biggest thing is it started out of DC, and that's created a lot of the problems that we have. Now, there are things that we can do better as a city, and I think you have a lot of passionate elected officials who care about that. But let's be clear, the DNA of Philadelphia is not based on the politicians, right? The culture of the city and the fabric and the things that people love about Philadelphia, that's not in City Hall. That's in every neighborhood. That's at every restaurant. That's at every festival. And that's at all the things, all of our amazing museums and all of the great things that make Philadelphia the best city. That has nothing to do with local government, right? We try our best to keep the lights on and provide quality services. I'm sure it's probably not the best time to be saying that because people are frustrated with a lot of things, but it's important that we provide explanations for the things people are frustrated on. One day we should come back and just talk about the Broad Street cameras because I know that's a hot topic and people are frustrated about it, but we haven't done a good enough job of explaining to people why those cameras are there, and we haven't done a good job of telling the stories of the victims who lost their lives because we waited too long to make one of the most dangerous streets in the entire city a little bit safer. So what I will say is that you could be frustrated with government. We're going to continue to work. We recognize the frustration and we're trying our best to continue to become more efficient, more effective, and serve the people better. But just remember, we aren't what make Philadelphia great. I love our sports culture here in the city of Philadelphia. Some other people love the food scene. Some people love the nightlife scene. Some people love the creative economy. There are so many things that make Philly dope. The fashion, don't let one bad thing or one bad sector of our city or one hurdle that we have define who we are. This is 2026. Our problems in 2016 were totally different. Some of them are the same, but overall, there are a lot of things that we saw from 2026, from 2016 to 2026, and there are other things that hopefully we can look to address over the next 10 years to try to solve some of these systemic problems that often hurt poor people and people of color. So we're laser sharp focused on trying to do that. I guess that was somewhat inspiring. Um,
It
but
was, it was. It was like don't focus on these girlies over here. We have a lot more, a lot more to offer, and
I
that's
mean, we
why.
do. I mean, what do you think about it? What do you love about Philly?
What do I love
Not
about
city.
Philly? Oh,
I
yeah, you
mean,
asking me
I
personally.
mean, anybody, you, the listening audience,
hmm
what you love about Philly is not going to be anything at 1400 JFK Boulevard, right?
hmm
Like that's not where the story starts. That's not where the story ends. And so, yeah, man, I love our city. I think our city is phenomenal. We have some amazing things to offer that no other city does. And I think, we got work to do for sure, but it's not broken beyond repair. Not even close.
Well, you know what's
Especially
gonna, you know what's gonna save the city is when we finally get our WNBA team because we know the ladies usually.
you see my hat,
That's
right?
why I mentioned it. That's why I
Mhm.
mentioned it.
I mean, what I will say is this, I have relationships with other elected officials all across the country.
hmm
And the thing I love about Philly is that, while we are behind on some things, we're often out in front on other things.
hmm
And it's always inspiring when people call and say, hey, such and such who used to work in Philadelphia just got hired to run our whatever. What do you think? Right. And that's because we're doing something right. Or when someone reaches out and say, hey, you guys have this law or this bill in Philadelphia, and we have this problem in our city, and we think your legislation can fix our problem. How do you suggest we go about doing that? Those things are a reminder that we are doing some things right in the city of Philadelphia. And, this is 2026. Good news always travels much slower than bad news. So
hmm
when something good happens in the city, look at the prep charter situation.
hmm
Remember that prep charter with the
The young man
whatever,
with the,
whatever.
yeah, with the cards and
I
stuff.
mean, come on, that
Yeah.
was like, let's be honest, adults. A lot of people don't know those words. Let's not front on those kids. But what people don't know about Prep Charter, and it's hard for the good news to travel fast, is that Prep Charter has a lot of students who intern at City Hall on a regular basis, and they do a good job learning local government and representing their institution. What people don't know about Prep Charter is they're going to have over 20 students graduate with the proper certification that they need to go directly into an apprenticeship program where they can actually start a career and have a career before they're even 21 years old. So,
hmm
the bad news always travels way faster than the good news. That is the case in almost any aspect of life. And, the story and the narrative of Philadelphia is no different than that.
100%, 100%. Now, Councilman, before we close out, is there anything else you want to say to the Unabridged audience before we lose you today? We'll definitely have to have you come back on because you mentioned the Broad Street cameras, and I'm looking at about 3 tickets right next to me. So I would love to chat about that myself. That's what happens when you live right up Broad Street.
Well,
But
I'm gonna
no.
tell a story, and you can edit this part out or not, but don't call. I'm not even gonna tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Don't call me about your tickets, y'all. That's not. Come on, please Google what has happened in the past. I'm not calling the PPA about your tickets. I can't help you if your car get booted. You know, potholes. We got you, right? Street cleanings. Yeah, we'll help you. Issues with the revenue department. We got great folks in commerce. There's a ton of things we can do. Tickets is not one of them.
Right.
You know.
Don't call me for your tickets.
Oh, I'm absolutely no every time. And I'm gonna absolutely will be in all caps. As nothing, absolutely not. There's nothing I can do for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, tell us.
I'm
We'll
sorry
close
ahead
it.
of time.
No, you're fine. Listen, tell people where they can kind of follow along with you and just keep updating. We know summertime is coming up, but that's usually a big time for you, time for young people. So, just let us know what you have going on so that people can follow along with what Councilman Thomas is
Sure,
doing.
I'll make sure that my social media, well, you'll make sure all my social media handles are part of it. So you can follow me on any platform. I try to be active. This summer, we'll have a lot of different initiatives and programs for young people. We'll be celebrating some big stuff. I don't even want to announce it now, but I'm always excited to have camp. I'm always excited for my softball event. These are just like annual things that we do every year. And of course, I'll be celebrating my 42nd birthday as well, too. I'm actually starting to look 42. So,
Oh my goodness, 42.
Government make you look your age. I used to not look my age.
Remember that Obama picture from the first,
Oh man,
before and
mine's gonna be
after?
way worse than his. I seen one of them pictures from the early eras. Oh man, it's 100% a catfish.
Well, then listen. His was
That is
like
not me.
His was 8 years apart. Yours is going to be like 12 years apart.
No,
So,
if you do it right now, it's 8 years.
Oh,
If you
right.
know,
It would be.
yeah,
Oh man.
I mean into next year's cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be 8 years. So mine's is worse than his. I mean, I'm not saying that my job was worse or I have the stress that he has. He just got more money.
Right. He got better skincare.
Yeah, that money changes it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Stay looking good. He got a lot more people working for him, more money.
Well, no, thank you so much, Council Member, for joining today. I really appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me.
And this episode will be coming out really soon, so make sure y'all stay tuned. And we have a really great interview coming up right after this. So thanks, everybody. Now, this one is for all my ladies. Look around your car. Look at your cup holder. How long that cup been in there for? How long ago did you spill that coffee in there? Look at the back seat. When was the last time the kids had Cheerios? All you know is that there's Cheerios back there, isn't there? Well, you need to get that car together because your whip is still a part of the look, girls. And what you need to do is hit up the best detailer located in North Philly, Woodson's Suds and Bubs. That's Woodson's Suds and Bubs. You can follow them on Instagram at Woodson Way to schedule and get your whip clean today. Founded on the spirit of Shirley Chisolm, Firm 1968 is the only African-American woman-run, operated, and exclusively staffed fundraising and advocacy firm in Pennsylvania. In this week's episode, we are joined by Jasmine Sessoms, Klissa Thomas, and Ladeshia Maxwell from this groundbreaking organization. The conversation explores how Black women are strategically stepping back from unpaid political labor while the firm continues advocacy for policy, raising millions, and building tech ecosystems, all while navigating motherhood and creating work environments that prioritize autonomy and health. Each of these ladies are undeniably their whole selves, which is why this model truly works. Tune in to be truly inspired by their journey and just another reason to love some Black women. Okay, great. All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to our interview for this week for Unabridged. I'm super, super excited for this interview to be able to get all three of these ladies on a call all at once. When I was setting this up, I think I texted there's about 7 kids between the four of us on this chat. So, this is a feat. So I'm happy that we are here. So let's do a quick round of introductions just so that the people who are listening can match your names to the voices and know who's talking. So Klissa's first on my screen. Won't you, Klissa, say your name and also your title at Firm 1968?
Sure. Hey, Dom. My name is Klissa Thomas. I am the managing partner of government relations and advocacy at Firm 1968.
Jazz
Hello, I'm Jasmine Sessoms. I am the CEO of Firm 1968.
and Deish.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Ladeshia, and I am also a managing partner at Firm 1968, overseeing community engagement as well as fundraising and some advocacy.
So why Firm 1968? Like, let's talk about, the work, but most importantly, like, why the name? I'm very curious because it doesn't, unless you really know, like, you really into the histories, you're just like, if you hear that, you're like, well, why did you name that? So anybody can answer. This is super informal. Don't be like, oh, I gotta raise my hand. Just jump in and, answer the questions. Maybe Jasmine should start with that since she started the
Jasmine should
firm. Yeah,
start
go ahead,
first.
Jazz.
I don't, I think I would be the only one that could answer that one. So Firm 1968 is actually named after the year 1968. It's the first year that it's the year that Shirley Chisholm became the first Black Congresswoman elected to the U.S. Congress. If you know anything about the work, she has been my spirit animal since I was 15 years old. That's when I first learned who Shirley Chisholm was, and I have been obsessed ever since. So 1968, we carry her unbought and unbossed spirit in all that we do. She was a trailblazer in the first, and that's really what we're trying to do. We are a Black women owned firm, and we employ mostly Black women. So that's really important to me.
I'm happy you mentioned that because as being a part of the mission, because I think Black women, we are center stage right now in terms of politics because we have decided to take a step back. So,
Correct.
so Letitia, talk to me about the step back that the girlies have taken and why do you feel like this is happening right now?
Yeah, so the step back is because we are often the first in line, right? We do the most, get paid the least. And we're exhausted. We're exhausted. And with, the new administration and the rollbacks of DEI and things of that nature, we're just exhausted. And so the step back is us just reclaiming our time, realigning, right? Putting ourselves first, living what the girlies are calling soft life now, right? And we are just like, we're not doing the most anymore. And you really have to work to get us out the house now. And that's how it should be because what do you mean? We keep coming outside, standing in the rain, canvassing, fundraising, leading, the world, and then now we are getting punished for it essentially. So it's like, no, we're done. We're done. We are gonna put ourselves first. We're gonna relax. We're gonna watch the world, you know, go on fire, catch on fire, and we'll blow it out. We'll exhaust the fire when it's our time to.
No,
We'll
I
fix it.
definitely feel that movement, right? 'Cause
I like that. I
when
like
you
that.
when you look at a lot of the backgrounds of political movements, especially even with a year as significant as 1968, women were coming up to the forefront during that time, and like the Black Panther Party movement, they were the leaders of some of the movements that actually pushed for, workers' rights across the board. So, I think that spirit of 1968, how do you guys continue your own fight, right? And Klissa, I'll pass this question to you because, granted, we do have this sit back spirit, but the nature of the work that your firm does is low key a little bit opposite of that, right? Because you guys are still working, you're still advocating, you're still making sure that the girls are getting their coins and their pack so that they can continue to keep their jobs. Shout out to making sure I keep my job. Looking at all three of you. But no, I'm curious, like, what is the motivation for you all? Because I'll pass that to you.
I would say the motivation for me would be everyone around me, right? I, it's very easy to fall for another Black woman and her mission, right? And I think about some of the clients that we have and just the work that we're doing and how we are pushing forward. I'm working with a Black woman CEO of a tech company that just, or I'm calling it a tech company lightly. It's and the whole mission is to pour into other uh, advanced folks in the advancement of the tech community, whether it be young people, startup companies. That's the whole premise of that work. And it's me seeing that. It's like, again, once again, we are being so fruitful with our time and giving with our time and our mission. And that really inspires me and why I just like to do the stuff, do the work.
Jasmine, what about you?
I mean, so when I think about taking a, yeah, I mean, I think of my friends that all have regular jobs in corporations. They're abusive, you know what I'm saying? And they crush your spirit, they crush your soul. There's a reason why I'm sitting somewhere at, the middle of the day because my best friend has a regular job and she needed a break and it mentally drains you, right? And that's something that we try to do the opposite of at 1968. We are very much about work-life balance. We work really, really hard. We acknowledge people for their work. We pay the girls. You know what I mean? Nobody works for free at Firm 1968 because Black women have done way too much for free. So you're absolutely right. Black women are resting, but we're resting in our own way. Like, I hate to say it, but our rest runs circles around everybody else, right? So like as hard as I hate to say this, but the white girls work, we can run circles around them on our at like 50% because Black women have superpowers that are unimaginable, right? And so we want to foster them and we champion them and we uplift them day in and day out at Firm 1968.
I love that because I think like it's crazy that even in our rests we're still working. Like we're calling this a resting period, but building and supporting tech ecosystems, not just company tech ecosystems and advocating for policy at the state, local and federal level and raising funds within in the millions and running teams of over 12 to 13. So like these things are compounding and then this is my little transition here, you add motherhood on top of that, right?
Mm.
And I'm gonna have to this isn't for you, right? Because me and you just got
Please.
to the table. We just got to the table, right? And these two ladies who are currently on the left of my screen have been mothers for way longer than me and Deja have, right? And I'm just curious, after, you guys were mothers through so many things that we were just kind of like dealing with, living through regularly and going through it. And now as a mom, I'm like, bro, how did you do things like COVID? What was like,
Hello.
how did you,
Hello.
what was that
And
like,
y'all
right?
have real job and they have real jobs, Dom. They
And
have real jobs.
it was
Child.
it's still working.
Girl.
It's still working.
Uh,
So I'm just like, I'm curious, like, how does number one, right? So all that to say, like, I'm going to actually ask a question. How do you feel like your motherhood actually informs your politics?
Mm. And for me personally, I think the main thing is the reality of how much a support system is needed, right? The village. And I say this often, that I had a very strong, and I still do, but that village has changed drastically. But I had a very strong village when raising my children at first, and that is very important that a lot of people don't have. And so when you put systems in place to provide those villages for folks and then they're being taken away, you know, uh, daycare is expensive. It is very expensive. I have two children. They are only going 3 days a week because it's expensive and the cost does not go down. And so that village is really important. And I feel like that's a huge driver of how I think about politics.
For me, I'll say I am fighting for the world, city, state, economy, life that I want J and J's to have, right? So, like, if you see me out and about, you probably at some point see J and J. So, to your point, what is it about being a mom and having a full-time job? It's funny you say COVID. I was just sitting here we were just talking about COVID. COVID was a dark time, right? Like, you really test your motherhood, your spousehood, your friendships. It all was just wild, right? I've blocked COVID out of my mind. But there are things that I've learned from being a mom in COVID, and it is that I want my kids with me as much as they possibly can be. They go to school, but when I pick them up, they are working the events at Firm 1968. They are coming to meetings with me. They know what they're seeing. They know who the elected officials are. They know what a state rep does versus a city council person versus a state rep versus a Congress versus the US Senate. And that's something I'm really proud of, right? So for me, motherhood is not kind of like it's an all-encompassing thing. So like I've always told people, if I can't bring my kids, you might as well not invite me, because like I need to make that decision. And if you want me to show up to be my very best, these are the things that I need. I need for, my husband is my security blanket. It's very strange, but he makes me a lot calmer, right? Seeing my children in the audience will only turn me up and make me just a little bit better, because without them, the three of them, honestly, who else am I doing this for? Myself?
That is a great transition because I actually have to go get somebody because they are awake. Give me 2 seconds. We're not going to
Yes,
stop.
go get that baby. Oh, the baby. I'm trying to be nosy and listen to what it's going to be a talking to.
Hi, Niall. Oh, look at you.
All right.
The
So we're going to
baby.
keep it going because I said that I was going to keep it real. We're going to keep it unfiltered. So we're just going to see this little forehead throughout the rest of this interview. And I'm prepared to go back to work in 2 weeks, where this will very much be my life. But anyway, I
No,
love.
wait, are you putting him in daycare when you go back to work?
No, he's coming to work with me. He's going to be right in the
What?
office. City Hall
Everyone.
Tots.
But again, it's like you said, you got to build that environment
Yeah,
that folks are allowing you to do that. I mean, and
absolutely.
thankfully that she has a space that they're allowing her to do that, because not a lot of corporations would let you do that.
I
Exactly.
agree.
No, I feel like, I've been very blessed over this time working for the city because, you can talk what you want about the girls, but they gave me 6 months of maternity leave. And when I said I was bringing my baby back with me, they were like, okay, and bring him back. All right. And he has a couple
That is a
teeth.
very unique situation. I
Oh
had my
yeah.
second child while working for the city. I got 3 weeks of maternity leave.
Well,
That was it. I got
actually talking about policy, shout out to Joanna and Morgan and the girls because that was directly related to the work that they were doing in Harrisburg. And I remember when I was talking to HR about this when I was preparing to leave, I was like, Tiffany, how is this a thing? And she was like, well, this is, because of the work they're doing in Harrisburg. It literally had just changed and it had increased because Max, when he went on maternity leave, his changed while he was away and he got a couple more weeks and then it changed again. So shout out to
wow.
our state reps doing their big one because that was the only way I got so much time.
And
Um
shout out to, I know that we look, she does some things great, she does other things not so great, but shout out to Mayor Parker and Maria Quiones Sanchez for mandating that there is a place in City Hall now that you can pump. So when I had my baby, there was no designated pumping area. So I either had to pump in the bathroom or I would have to wait for people on the seventh floor to leave so I could use the cafeteria. And then my coworker would stand against the door so people couldn't come in. And I remember talking to Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez, and it was a struggle. I had to like pump, and I had to run downstairs and use her office. And she was like, "Do we not have places for people to pump?" I was like, "No, it's not a thing here. Shit, I only got 3 weeks of maternity leave." And that's when they started the legislation. And so now there is a designated place on 2 floors in City Hall that women can go and pump. So like these people are affecting our everyday lives, and something so simple, something that will leave you with dignity, right? And that's how policy really works.
No, I
100%.
agree, especially when you are, and that's why I think I love local politics a little bit more than state and federal, because you can have that type of effect by just having a conversation with somebody about the experiences that you're going through, or just something that you saw, and now it's like, now we can legislate this, right? Now we can actually have a real conversation about how to fix that problem. So no, I think all politics is local. So shout out to the girls, and shout out to Councilwoman Parker. So going back to our mommyhood days, now that you very recently had that switch, do you see a change in your politics? Having only been a mom for a year now. Yes,
Come on,
year,
year.
mommy. Yes.
Yes, of course, of course. I've always been pretty like aware of how Black boyhood is. But now I have a little black boy, so a lot of the stuff has changed for me. Like a lot of the world has changed. Like I've always, been like, ooh, I feel so bad for Trayvon Martin and, like his mom and all of them. But I'm now living in a world where I'm like, oh my God, my baby is now one. I am scared to death. You just hear so much about we lived through COVID, so we seen everything. We know all the brutality and things of that nature. But it's different when you're a mom to a little black boy who is visibly black. Like you guys know, like my baby is a chocolate drop, so it ain't no ambiguousness around him. And just being like, I don't know how to save him at all, right? I don't know how to save him, but I'm trying to just make sure he knows the world a little bit. So he's like, I just came from the library, like reading at the library with him. I make sure he goes to like little gym classes and things. I just really want him to live a whole life now. And I think the politics behind that is like, I want him to be safe in this world. So looking at gun safety a little bit differently, looking at police brutality a little bit differently, looking at school, like Philadelphia school district a little bit differently, right? I want to live in the city, but does that mean I pay for a private school? Do I mean like you know what I mean? So we have a client that does education policy, and the first 30 minutes she's talking to me about schools, right? And it's just like that's just the reality because you don't, you really just are trying to better his life, like, and being conscious that his world is going to look a lot differently than, my world or, some of his white peers. We live in Fishtown, right? It's going to look a lot different. And so just thinking about that, and that has really shaped like how I'm going into the booth moving forward, right? And so took him to vote the last election, what was that, November? And channeling what the ladies have been doing. We've been there with Jasmine, and we've seen Klissa, and back to She Can Win, when we see the kids coming out and voting with their parents and just trying to instill that into him too. So it's a lot.
No, I love
Yeah,
that you bring up the. Oh no, I was about to pass it to you anyway, Krista. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just, as you talked about, having that young black boy, and even in my reality, I have a 13-year-old son and he's not small, he's taller than me, and he's about to be taller than his dad in about 4 weeks. Give him 4 weeks. And, and he has friends, and he is very, I mean, we've put a lot of shelter over him, and we're looking at high school and those types of things. And we are letting our fears kind of dictate how he moves on. But the reality is, like, we just let him go to Hershey Park with his friends over the weekend, and we realized our fears were around what other people might do to him and how they might treat him. And that should not still be, with his father being an elected that still is a large fear of ours, that we can't always protect him. We can do the best we can here, but as soon as he steps out of our realm, he's now out with other people who don't necessarily think the same way. So it's just the reality that we're living in.
I mean, I'm not a boy mom, so I don't have boys. I only have girls. Am I I'm the only one that has girls. Okay.
No, Lori.
I have one, but you have all girls.
Right,
yes.
Right. I have all girls. That's right. You have Lori. Hania is tearing these chips up, and I keep telling everybody, like,
Hania is a boy mom too.
Boy and girl, yeah.
Boy and girl.
Hi, Hania. Girl, can she hear me?
Working mother.
She about to get my text
Working
too.
mom.
Tell her she about to be a guest too, so expect the text.
Mama, I'm here for it, okay?
Yes. Just check off my list.
I just in my house minding my business. Okay, they won't let me mind my business. I will say this, as like, I don't have boys, right? I mean, I don't even have nephews really, other than like my friends' sons. I have all girls. My brother has all girls, and so does my sister. So there is a different level with girls that you have to think about, right? Boys, you're absolutely worried about them being profiled and are they going to get home safely, et cetera, et cetera. Where you really worry with girls as a mom of how they are perceived and showing up in this world, right? Mm-hmm. Truly how they carry themselves. I have an older one who's extremely conservative, and I have a younger one who is extremely not conservative. I fear every day for my youngest one, whose mouth gets her in trouble at school. She is quick with her hands, but don't come for her unless she sends for you, right? And she's in an all-white environment, and they continuously come for that little one, and she continuously will clap back and let them know, and they're not as quick as her, right? She's extremely quick-witted. And so they have somewhat labeled her as an issue within the school because she is now an aggressive child, right? And they try to put her in the slower class where she'd be like, I'm not slow, I'm just cussing these motherfuckers out. Like, that's just who I am. And so that is what you have to worry about with girls per se. Like, you don't want them to be seen as sassy or too fast or too fresh. Mm-hmm. And you just gotta let them be them. You understand what I'm saying? But I do not envy boy moms either. I don't envy any mom. Like, there's always something.
Yeah.
There is always something. And, Hania is sitting here. She has a boy and a girl. Klissa has a boy and a girl. I can't even imagine switching my brain off in that kind of way for one boy, one girl, because I would imagine it's hard.
I mean, your children are also different in each and every way, but it's still just like you said, being a mother in general, especially this day and time where you just feel like their access to technology and information is a lot more vast than we had, right? And so now we're fighting against like everything else they can learn at their fingertips. You're trying to make sure that you're instilling as much as you can in them so that they're not getting everything else from social media because it's so easy for them. And that, I think we've seen different legislations on like child protection online and things like that, but I feel like there's only but so much they can do to control how quickly these kids have access to this information.
No, that's so true. I think you guys brought up like so many amazing points, and I think as a person who is a boy mom, and I also have a stepdaughter now, I am seeing those different hats, and it is very scary, right? Like, yeah, my baby is a little ambiguous, Ladeshia, but listen, in this day and age, I gotta worry about ICE too now. Shit, like if that's what we want to be real,
that baby look Hispanic.
but no, seriously, like I think
fresh doobie.
Listen, I gotta make sure the curls come out so they know. It's like Klissa know the struggle. But no, seriously, I think having Black children at in any level, right? It all is, kind of crazy. And I think, from all of your children, I know, they're neurotypical, right? So, but one of my best friends, her son is on the spectrum, and that adds a whole other level, right? That we see that when you talk about Black moms, and I've seen her struggle, maximize to a 1,000, right? So, I feel like I'm blessed every day, but still, like that job of switching those hats on and off and being a mom in that moment is a lot, right? And to my audience, I promise I won't mom y'all to death, but this is my realities
I
right now.
literally
So
just thought to myself, like, Dom, you might as well turn this into a mom podcast.
I won't. We had a whole political moment before this. We still gonna have political moments, and we're still gonna talk about it. But this is my
But
reality.
being a mom is political. And
Yes.
being a mom, being a Black mom is so political. It's crazy. It's crazy. But,
Voice a little nugget.
I know he's trying
Look
to
at
he's
him
trying to chime in.
talking.
He's trying to chime in too. He like, I got some thoughts as well.
That's right.
Right. But no, okay, so I did want to, not only talk about serious stuff because, I love to have a key with you ladies. So let's talk about some fun stuff too. So pivoting a little bit, what are some of your Black lady heroes right now? Because I've kind of been in the bowl right now, so I don't know what is going on in the world. But who are some of your Black lady heroes? It don't gotta be nobody new. It could be somebody old, wherever, and why. Like, what was a moment, or like, what did they do that's like you was like, you know what, that's my girl right there.
Jasmine Sessoms. Jasmine Sessoms.
Oh.
Jasmine.
She's like, that was an easy way.
That was easy.
If I wasn't on this call, she wouldn't be saying that.
Yes, I
I
wouldn't.
think she
I don't
would
even
have,
know.
because that was where my mind was going.
I don't even know. Like, I work in politics. I'm doing political fundraising. I'm doing all this stuff. And I don't know what's going on still. I'm just focused. Like, I'm like razor focused on just this, one thing, like the one client, but if I had to be like, who's your hero at the moment? Like, is my boss. And not because she's my boss, because before she was my boss, she was my mentor. And before she was my mentor, she was a woman that was introduced to me via Twitter because she was such a dynamic woman. And she's constantly bringing out the best in us. There is nothing I can't go to her about politics, mommyhood, anything. And I'm just like, let me call Jasmine real fast because I just, so yeah, my Shiro, Jasmine Sessoms.
You made her so uncomfortable. She's sitting there.
So she can't stand being doted on. So I'm not gonna put it on because that was what was gonna be my answer, and I'm not gonna put it on. I ain't gonna do it. But
under the table. I'm so touched and I want to cry, but I also want to crawl under this table.
It's so like similar to
Nina's making it
Ladeshia
20 times worse.
And it's just similar to what she was saying is like, before I was working with Jasmine, that was my friend. I knew her. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think I realized the depth I've always known she's been that girl, right? And then when I'm around her all the time, I'm like,
I'm that girl junior.
Not going off camera. Like,
okay. Let me choose another hero. No.
All right, Jasmine, you name somebody that's just the girls are making.
You want to know what it is? Look, I have a million sheroes. Like, shout out to Ladeshia and Klissa. Shout out to Nadia, Hania, Tiffany, Numis, Kiasha, Janae. Am I missing anybody from the group chat? Nope. I feel like
the supreme team over there.
Shout out to them for sure. But like, let me tell you something, Dom. I was never expected to really start a business. Like, my parents didn't instill that in me. It was always go to school, go as far as you can go, and then go get a really good job, right? And I tried to stick with that. I ain't cut out for that. Like, I've tried. I am not cut out for that. So one, to come with like nothing, right? When I asked Ladeshia to come with me, and it took a while. It took a while for me to convince her to roll with me. Dom, you rejected me every time, but I get it. I would have rejected me too if I had that kind of setup. And Klissa, like to go to two people that can go and work anywhere, right, that are immensely talented, but also that you like, right? Because I'm very finicky. I don't like a lot of people. I just don't. It's just not in my nature. Um, every single day that I wake up and I get to send either one of them an email, and not, obviously them, Jemiah, Cam, Stephanie, etc., and they are in this joint with you, helping you build something that like you don't know where it's gonna go, but they're rocking with you, is the ultimate level of just like humble, and just there is no word to really describe what I wake up feeling every day, that we're on Zooms together and we're working on clients together and we're brainstorming. Because look, I don't have all the answers. Klissa and Ladeshia will tell you most of the time I don't really have any of the answers, and they are always sitting there willing to work with me. Then I have like my friends, like I said, Hania and Nadia. It's the middle of a Monday, right? And we just needed some time, so we like, yo, what is everybody doing? Let's do it. The fact of the matter is, like, both of them have big jobs, right? But it doesn't really matter what I'm doing, or like if they even sense that I'm upset, or if they sense I'm too stressed, or maybe I did not respond quick enough in our group chat. It is just a level of, yo, come over, we want to talk to you. We got to lay eyes on you. One time I disappeared on election night because something had happened. The level of text messages, and then Nadia just showed up at my house at like 5 a.m. There is nothing that can replace that. So like, yeah, I mean, the famous girlies are great, but in my circle, again, because I don't have a lot of close people to me, or people that see me on the day to day, or really even know the struggle, like, don't be fooled by them glass and them suits and whatnot. It's rough over here. And we're figuring it out. That's the heroic path to me. You have an idea, and then people actually want to come and rock with you, and they don't got to. And Don, like, shout out to you, right? Like, you were with me on the first iteration when I really had
Yeah,
no,
I was at the broke firm.
You were at the broke firm. You were at the broke firm.
Our
We didn't have
firm
that.
didn't have no money. We didn't have a little nest thing.
We didn't have no Zoom backgrounds. We had no merch. We were just outside in a table. So like, you know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff that just makes you be like, I gotta do better. I gotta be harder. I gotta be smarter, because all of these people are rooting for you, and you can't let them down.
No, I think, and I'm going to make sure to link the original podcast interview that I've had, that me and Jasmine had during season 1, where Jasmine really talked a lot about her story, starting out as a wedding planner, which I always think is kind of crazy, right? And to be, where she is now. So that way, folks can see, you can hear more about Jazz's story. Okay, now let them know. I got it. All right. This is my show. So I think so. I mean, no, listen, your heroes and heroes could be anybody. I think, for me, my heroes and heroes right now are all, again, with the mom stuff, but all the mommies who have wrapped themselves around me during this time period. My aunts, like, I've always praised my matriarchy, but, when I had the baby and I was born, like, they have showed up for me in ways that I didn't even know that I needed. So, those right now are a lot of my heroes. And also always forever Beyonce, particularly right now because she just grew my edges back. Shout out to Sacred. So them drops, they work. The girls work, okay? Because they grew them back. So always in front for Beyonce.
Yes.
So, but no,
Nobody tell you that your hair falls out.
Nobody tells you that part when after you had them babies. It gets real good, and then it's just bad.
Like the whole front just was out. I'm like, I'm bald here. How did that happen? But we're coming back. We're coming back. Thanks to Beyonce. They say you bounce forward. You don't bounce back. You bounce forward. So I'm going to ask my one of my last questions, because I want you all to answer it. Each one of you to answer it in your own way. And take time, because I think this is the root of the show. This is why I started the show, being unabridged. I think, since I started it, what it means to me now, being my whole unedited self, has drastically changed, right, over time. And it's really going to change for anybody as you go through many transitions in your life, as you get older. I started this show when I was 30, right? I'm 33 now. And even in that time period, so much has changed in my life. So, that definition has changed. So I'm curious for each of you, what does it mean to be completely unabridged, your whole unedited self? I love how y'all all looked at that left side like.
I mean, mine is really simple. Like, there is nobody that's going to check me any longer, so I can be so unapologetically Black. Like, I don't even say Black and brown no more. I am here for Black people. End of story. Like, I'm here to make sure that they get a seat at the table. I'm here to make sure, specifically Black women, I'm here to make sure they're getting paid. I'm here to make sure that their organizations are being invested in. I'm here to make sure that they're being platformed. My unabridged self, where I am happiest, is truly around Black people doing things to further our community. Like, that is just what I've always wanted to do. In companies, you can never quite be your full Black self until now. I mean, truly, until now. And I get to show up as my whole self every day and talk about the things that I am passionate about, which is just Black people, but specifically Black women. And everything that we do supports it. It makes my heart sing, really. I guess that is my unabridged, instead of making my heart sing. That is my unabridged. I see what you did there. Self.
Yeah, I think that for me it would be uh just to be, because I feel like I often, and I do think I just have a lot of work trauma from this. I often second guess myself. I put myself in like a space that's like, just don't, or just like ask first. And I'm always, always, always second guessing myself. And my unabridged version is being unapologetically unbought and unbossed. And I feel so liberated in this space that I'm in now. And I feel like I'm able to really trust myself. I mean, obviously we all need guidance and but I find myself trusting myself more. And that is where I'm feeling more, where I have my unabridged sense of self.
Mm, everybody said such good things. My unabridged, oh goodness, is being healthy. And when I say healthy, I mean mentally healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy. Um, and I can and with the firm, I feel as though I'm healthy, right? I am finally at a point where, I feel good enough to like maneuver the way I need to, right? Like I could be, like I said, I just came from the library with my son during the day, right? Like that's enough for me to be healthy. I'm going on a trip with my partner on Friday that is healthy. Like I am able to really be a mom, a partner, a semi-boss. I'm just able to be healthy mentally, spiritually. Did Ramadan, like just so much is happening that I just feel like I'm being unabridged as me just being healthy and full and like Klissa said, liberated in everything that I do. Um, and yeah, I think that makes me a better mom, a better employee, a better friend, a better colleague. Everything is based off of that. So being on a bridge is just being healthy. And when you're Black, that's political. That is unabridged.
I love how you all spoke to just a level of autonomy, right? And just being able to have that ownership of your choices, of your mission, of just your day, right? And I think like that is so powerful, especially for Black women. And again, I said I wanted to end on a happy note, but I feel like because I've had a lot of time and a lot of just moments of open brain. I think a lot about, our ancestors and our past, and how, that when we were enslaved, that was just not our realities. And, I thought about that so much, while I was pregnant, just being able to have those comforts that you need. So having that autonomy really speaks directly, to that freedom that we now have, and something that, we had to fight for. And that I think is really driven and deep in the mission of 1968, and the movement that the women and the men that fought during that time, and the way that we had to step up, during that time period. So, I always love the mission, always love the girls. Before we close out, how can we support Firm 1968? Like, how do we follow along on the mission? What's going on? Somebody drop the deets.
What's the Instagram, y'all?
Firm 1968. Our IG handles Firm 1968. You can find us on LinkedIn at Firm 1968. We're out here.
Luggage developmental. You better work your
Listen,
title.
we always we love to talk about, the services that we provide. We would listen, give us that one right there, a platform, and we will go. So
And we do more than fundraising.
way more.
Any final words before we close out, ladies?
Nah, man. Shout out to you for like restarting the thing that you're most passionate about, right? In the midst of getting ready to go back from your maternity leave with your baby sitting on your lap, and you probably are so tired. So like, shout out to you. Thank you for your first go around back to even think about the firm and what we're doing. Cause look, we're going into our third year. So for you to see us and say like, I want to have you guys on the podcast as my first time back, it means the world, and we are humbled by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, thank you all for joining me. And again, thank you so much to the audience for listening. I'm going to link all of the socials that, for the firm, so you can follow along, not with just them, but the amazing clients and women in advocacy that they are working on for Black women, for children, for everybody. So thank you all so much. And we will see you for our next episode next month. Bye. Okay.